Plasma membrane. All living things are made up of cells. Cells are the basic building blocks of life. They are like tiny factories that carry out all the functions necessary for life. Every cell is surrounded by a thin, delicate membrane called the plasma membrane. This membrane acts as a barrier between the inside of the cell and the outside world. The plasma membrane is essential for life. It protects the cell from its surrounding. It controls what enters and exits the cell. Without the plasma membrane, the cell won't be able to survive. The plasma membrane is a complex and a dynamic structure. It is made up of variety of molecules that work together to perform its many functions. In the following sections, we will explore the structure and function of plasma membrane in detail. Of fat molecule. The plasma membrane is made up of a double layer of molecules called phospholipids. This double layer is called the lipid bilayer. Phospholipids are a type of fat molecule that has a hydrophilic head and a hydrophobic tail. The hydrophilic head of a phospholipid is attracted to water. The hydrophobic tail is repelled by water. In the lipid bilayer, the hydrophilic head of the phospholipids face outwards towards the watery environment inside and outside the cell. Hydrophobic tail face inwards towards each other away from the water. This arrangement of phospholipids creates a barrier between the inside and outside of the cell. The hydrophobic interior of the lipid bilayer prevents water soluble molecules from passing through. This is important because it allows the cell to maintain a different internal environment from its surrounding, the gatekeepers of the cell. In addition to phospholipids, the plasma membrane also contains proteins. These proteins are embedded in the lipid bilayer. They perform variety of functions including transport. Some protein act as a channels or carriers that allow specific molecule to cross the membrane. These proteins are like gates that can open and close to control the flow of molecules. Signaling. Other proteins act as receptors that bind to signaling molecules from other cells. This binding triggers a response inside the cell. These proteins are like the antennas that receive messages from the other cell. Cell recognition. Some protein act as an identification tag that allows cell to recognize each other. These proteins are like the name tags that tell other cells what type of cell it is. The types and amounts of protein in the plasma membrane vary depending on the type of cell. Next is all about how cell controls what goes inside and out. The plasma membrane is selectively permeable. This means that it allows some molecules to pass through but not others. There are two main types of transport: passive transports and active transport. Passive transport does not require the cell to expend energy. It occurs down a concentration gradient, that is from a high concentration to an area of low concentration. An example of passive transport is diffusion. Imagine dropping a drop of food coloring into a glass of water. The food coloring will diffuse or spread out until it is evenly distributed through the water. Active transport requires the cell to expend energy. It requires against a concentration gradient from an area of low concentration to an area of high concentration. Example of active transport is sodium potassium pump. This pump uses energy to move sodium ions out of the cell and potassium ions inside the cell. The plasma membrane plays a vital role in regulating the transport of molecules into and out of the cell. Next, how cells they talk to each other. Cell signaling, how cells talk to each other. So, cells communicate with each other using chemical signals. These signals are often molecules that bind to receptors on the surface of other cells. The binding of a signaling molecule to its receptor triggers a response inside the cell. The plasma membrane plays a crucial role in cell signaling. It contains the receptors that bind to signaling molecules. It also transmits the signal from receptors to the inside of the cell. Cell signaling is essential for many processes in the body, including growth, development, the immune response, and the nervous system functioning. Next, the dynamic view of the membrane. The fluid mosaic model, a dynamic view of the membrane. The fluid mosaic model is most widely accepted model of the plasma membrane. This model describes the membrane as a dynamic and the fluid structure. The phospholipids in the lipid bilayer are not static. They constantly move laterally or side to side. This movement gives the membrane fluid-like consistency. The protein in the membrane are also mobile and they can move laterally within the lipid bilayer. This movement allows the cell to change the number and distribution of protein in its membrane in response to its need. The fluid mosaic model helps to expand the dynamic structure of plasma membrane, its ability to perform its many functions. The plasma membrane in disease. The plasma membrane in diseases. Many diseases are caused due to defects in the plasma membrane. Example, cystic fibrosis is caused by a defect in a protein that transports chloride ion across the membrane. This defect leads to the buildup of thick, sticky mucus in the lungs and other organs. Other diseases that are linked to the defects in the plasma membranes include Alzheimer's disease, cancer, and heart diseases. Understanding the role of plasma membrane in disease is essential for developing new treatments. The plasma membrane in medical research. The plasma membrane is major target for medical research. Scientists are working to develop new drugs that can target specific proteins in the membrane. These drugs could be used to treat a variety of diseases. For example, scientists are developing drugs that can block the activity of proteins that are involved in the cancer cell growth. Other researchers are working on ways to deliver drugs or genes across the plasma membrane. This could be used to treat diseases like cystic fibrosis or cancer. The plasma membrane is a complex and important structure that plays a vital role in human health. Research on the plasma membrane is leading to new and innovative treatments for a variety of diseases. The plasma membrane, a vital structure for life. The plasma membrane is a remarkable structure. It is a boundary between the cell and its environment. It controls what enters and exits the cell, and it plays a vital role in cell signaling and other important cellular processes. The plasma membrane is essential for life. Without it, cell would not be able to survive. The study of plasma membrane is an important area of research leading to new and innovative treatments for a variety of diseases. Thank you. Signing off.